Why not? Is it legal?
Hello and welcome to this video. I'm Marcus Hayes and today you join me from mine and my girlfriend Kat's new home. As you can see, we haven't fully unpacked everything yet. We got Ford Escort parts in the living room as well as my musical instruments. So I'm not going to give you the full tour at the moment because it's still a bit of a mess here, but there is a couple of things I want to show you that have been sent to me by a couple of very generous subscribers. First up, I've got this plastic conduit that was sent to me by a guy called Terry Howard. Now those who have been watching my videos will remember that I bought some stuff similar to this from Car Builders Solutions to tidy up the wiring in MAUDE, my MAUDE All Mark II Escort, and the largest diameter that Car Builder Solutions was able to supply was a 25mm diameter conduit, which wasn't quite big enough to fit round some of the thicker parts of the loom behind MAUDE's dash. Now this stuff is a bit stiffer than the stuff that I got from Car Builder Solutions, and it hasn't got a slit running down it, so I'll have to do that myself. Maybe when I've put the slit in, it will make it a little bit more flexible, but to be honest, the part of the loom that I plan to use this on is very short and very straight, so I think this is going to be perfect. Terry also very kindly sent me this sleeving stuff, which is, you know, just to protect wires, and this is actually very similar to the stuff that Motorsport Electronics put on their plug-and-play looms. So yeah, pretty good stuff. I'm sure that'll come in handy one day. There's a couple of sizes of that, and there's plenty of this. Now Terry sent me these bits absolutely free, so massive thanks to you for that, mate. You're an absolute legend, and it's going to be a massive help. Next up, I have this Crossmember, which was sent to me by Joe Jones. I actually asked on a recent video if anyone had a Crossmember for sale, because the one that's currently fitted to MAUDE has some damage to this bit here where the steering rack bolts to, and the plan is to fit this when I fit MAUDE's new ST170 engine. Now I've noticed this little bit on this Crossmember. I don't think this is original, and if you look closely, some of these welds, you know, they're blatant MIG welds, you know, so this has obviously been added at some point, a cutout. The only thing I can think of is maybe this was used on a car that had a crossflow engine with a dry sump kit, which would poke out of this side of the engine. So yeah, I think that's what that's for. Now, although I was asking if anyone had a Crossmember for sale, Joe Jones actually sent me this Crossmember absolutely free, which is amazing. You know, these Crossmembers go for quite a few quid on eBay, and he sent it to me for free. So massive thanks to you, Joe. I really appreciate it. It's going to be a massive help with the project. It's amazing that, you know, Joe and Terry have sent me these bits for free, but believe it or not, there was actually two other people that were offering me a free Crossmember. One was a World Cup Crossmember, which you can still buy new, and it was an option that I was thinking about, but I wasn't sure whether the World Cup Crossmember would clear the exhaust manifold that I've got fitted to MAUDE at the moment. But yeah, there was a guy offering me a free World Cup Crossmember, and there was also someone else who offered me a normal Crossmember like this, which had been acid dipped at some point and then sort of left since then. But yeah, this one has obviously been powder coated at some point. It's going to be perfect. Equally, with this conduit stuff, there was a couple of other people that offered to send me some of this for free as well. It's just amazing that more than one person is willing to send me the same part for absolutely free. Now, I can't remember the names of all the other people that offered to send me free stuff, and there is actually quite a few people in the past that have offered to send me free stuff, which I've turned down. Now, I don't mean any offence by that, it's just that if it's not something that I can sort of definitely see that I'm going to need for my projects, I don't think it's right for me to take it when someone else could use it on their projects. And let's face it, a lot of these Escort parts do make quite a few quid on eBay nowadays. So yeah, massive thanks again to everyone out there who is continually helping me out, you know, with advice and parts. You know, I really appreciate it. Now, believe it or not, this house actually came with a free battery. This was in the shed outside, looks quite new. I charged it up and it works fine. And that's actually been perfect for me to do a couple of little jobs at home. The first of those jobs involves this, which is of course the 6-dial dash from ESTHER, my ST170 powered Mark I Escort. Those of you who have been watching my videos a while will remember that last year I was struggling to to get the coolant temperature gauge to work properly. Every time that I wired it directly to a battery, it was fine, but when I wired it through the voltage regulator, which is this thing here, it didn't work. And basically I assumed that the voltage regulator itself was faulty. I actually did buy an aftermarket type voltage regulator, which didn't solve the problem, but I've now fitted a brand new replacement that is exactly the same as the original. And here is the original one. Now with that battery, I was able to wire up the dash directly to the battery. I'll just explain that the yellow and black wires that basically go to each of the backlights, they also go to the back of the voltmeter. Now that's the live into the clocks, I assume, and that pin is here. It's got the yellow and black wire on it, so I wired that one to the positive side of the battery, and then this brown wire here, which is this pin, is the earth for the clock. So I wired that directly to the negative side of the battery. Then what I did is I also connected this red and white wire to the negative side of the battery, and that is the feed that goes from the coolant temperature gauge to the coolant temperature sender that is screwed into the block of the engine, or in my case it's screwed into the water rail on the back of ESTHER's ST170 engine. So yeah, I connected that pin to the negative side as well, and what that's basically replicating is if the engine was really super hot, you know, so it's earthed directly to the negative side of the battery without going through the temperature sender as it would be on the car, and that did indeed make the temperature gauge move up. So I think once I fit this back to ESTHER, the clocks should be working. Now I got this voltage regulator from eBay, and it seems like he does quite a lot of little electrical gizmos like this, so I'll leave a link to his shop in the description of this video in case anyone needs a regulator, you know, for your dash. He might have a few more in stock. I will bolt these clocks back into the Mark 1 in a couple of days just to test that they are working properly. One other thing that my free battery helped me with involves the ME100 ECU from Motorsport Electronics that is going to be controlling MAUDE's new ST170 engine. What I was able to do was hardwire the plug and play loom to the battery, and then obviously plug it all up to the ECU, and then plug the lead that goes from the ECU to my laptop. And then I was able to download a base map from Motorsport Electronics' website and load it into the ECU. And then I was able to just go through all the settings, you know, do a bit of a sanity check. I noticed that the capacity of the engine that base map came off was a 1600, so I changed that to 2 litre. Just went through and made sure that the VVT control was turned off. Obviously that will be turned on when I have the ME100 running MAUDE's new ST170 engine, but I thought it'd be a good idea to try and get the ME100 running MAUDE's current engine. So yeah, I was able to wire it up to the battery. It was really simple. You know, Motorsport Electronics have loads of really good tutorials on their YouTube channel, which makes it a doddle, even for an amateur like me, to get yourself up and running. And yesterday, I actually went round to the garage and then just temporarily hardwired the plug and play loom to the battery. And I thought I'd see if I could get MAUDE to start. Now what I did do when I had the laptop up is I copied the ignition map from MAUDE's NODIS Pro that's running the engine at the moment. That's running on a 2D map, and I'm not sure how to get the ME100 to go into 2D mode. So what I did is I copied the Spark Advance all the way down the table. I can probably insert a picture so you know what I mean. Yeah, just copied it all the way down. So basically, if the ECU is for some reason picking up a throttle position input, even though there isn't one connected, it's basically going to ignore that and it will just keep the Spark Advance depending on engine speed. The plan was to just temporarily wire it up to MAUDE and see if MAUDE's current engine will run on MAUDE's new ME100 ECU. Right, so I'm at MAUDE's new garage, which actually came with the house, which I'm really happy about. As you can see, I've got the ME100 ECU with its plug and play loom, just temporarily directly wired up to the battery. I've got the crank sensor wired up down there and the coil pack wired up under there. Oh, and MAUDE's carb leak has come back with a vengeance. So I've got the black wires from the plug and play loom wired up directly to the negative terminal, and the red wires are wired up directly to the positive terminal. Obviously, when this is wired up properly, it will be going through a fused relay, but this is just a temporary test. And it literally started straight up. The clutch rattle's getting really bad now, so it sounds a mess. I don't want to run it for too long because I think the crank sensor wire down there is a bit close to the exhaust manifold, but she runs. So as I've mentioned before, if you are looking for an ECU for your car, definitely check out Motorsport Electronics. They sell great products and they're really helpful as well, which is always handy when you're an amateur like me. I'll leave a link to Motorsport Electronics website and their YouTube channel in the description of this video. It's a new day and I've got a little bit of an issue. After the last clip from yesterday, I basically decided that I'm not going to fit the ME100 fully yet. So I decided to unplug it and plug the MOTORSPORT Pro Loom back in. And when I'd done that and tried to start the car, it wouldn't start. Now on the MOTORSPORT Pro unit, you've got a red light to show you that the unit's powered, which is working. But when you're cranking it, there's a blue and a green light here, and I think the blue one is supposed to flash to show that you've got a signal from the crank sensor. When I was cranking, none of these lights came on. Now I've had problems before with the crank sensor wiring. I actually replaced this part of the loom. I think the problem is that because the wiring ends up so close to the exhaust manifold, I basically have it under a bit of tension, you know, and have the wire sort of pulling away from the heat of the manifold and then going back round the back of the engine. So I think that's why I keep having problems with this. I tried to plug it in and unplug it a few times, but it wasn't working, so I started investigating and I've peeled back this sort of rubber protector on this connector, and what I find is that the two wires that are going to the crank sensor plug have got no insulation on them inside at all. I'm pretty sure this bit of the loom wouldn't have been built like that, so I don't know what's going on, but I'm pretty sure that if those two wires are touching each other inside this, then the crank sensor isn't going to send a signal to the ECU. So what I'm thinking I'm going to need to do now is rewire this crank sensor wiring. I think these are the correct ones. Yep, definitely look like it. Yeah, so it looks like I've got the pins, but I don't have a spare one of these plugs, so hopefully I'll be able to get those pins out of this plug without damaging it. Alright, so I'm really struggling to get these pins out of this old plug. Got these like little lock-in tabs obviously on the pins, which I have been able to fold back, but I think they need to pull out this way. So I think I'm going to have to try and use some tweezers or something. I need to start getting ready for work soon, so I'm going to leave this for another day. I want to get to work on time today because I want to go to the garage on my break and see if Esther's dash is now working properly.